Well, hello everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. Today's topic, we are talking about a future-proof framework for enterprise LMS selection. We're going to look at when architecture matters more than feature. As always, this session is eligible for HRCI, SHRM, and ATD professional development credits. So make sure you log that in and take care of that. Um, I'd like to take a minute and introduce today's speakers. I'm David Wentworth. I'm the Managing Director for Learning and Talent here at Brandon Hall Group. I'm pleased to be joined by Christian Wachter, who is the co-CEO, and Roman Muth, who is the CTO of Sheer IMC, joining me today from halfway around the world. So lovely to have you gentlemen with me today. Speaking of Sheer IMC, we'd love to thank them for sponsoring today's webinar and providing these gentlemen to us with their insights and their knowledge and their time. So thank you very much. A little bit about Sheer IMC. It's a learning technologies leader with over 30 years of experience. It's a full service provider offering training programs, learning content, strategic expertise for global brands, all in search of achieving complex learning goals. It was founded by IT visionary Professor Sheer out of a pioneering university initiative. And Sheer IMC has transformed learning for 12 million plus learners at over 1,300 organizations. Driven by bold innovation, Sheer IMC goes beyond technology to deliver human-centered learning experiences. And we're going to dig a little into how they do that from the ground up today, I think. For those of you who are not familiar with Brandon Hall Group, a little bit about us. We're a leading professional development firm. We've been serving learning, talent, HR executives worldwide for over 30 years. We advance the growth and performance of millions of employees and leaders through our cloud-based platform, delivering evidence-based research, data, and certification programs that empower organizations to achieve excellence in every area of human capital management. We have incredible learning and networking opportunities. We have different events, including our two BRIC events happening this year, our AI Summit on October 15th, also our Leadership Summit on November 17th and 18th. This is new for us, so pay attention here. As a thank you for joining us, you're going to receive an invitation to experience the Brandon Hall Group Eminence Program with a complimentary 7-day access. So during that trial, you'll be able to explore award-winning research, hundreds of courses and certifications, thousands of practical resources, and the tools our clients use to support learning, talent, leadership, HR inclusion, AI, and the future of work. Because there's so much available to you, you'll be able to choose when you start that 7 days. But just watch for the follow-up email where you'll have the invitation and all the details with a link. So be sure to take advantage of that because that is new and something we haven't done before. We mentioned the awards that all culminates with our wonderful conference each year. The 2027 HCM Excellence Conference is happening January 26th through the 28th. We're going to send this all out to you after this in a PDF within about 24 hours. So you'll have all the details that you need on that. And as you let all that rattle around in your head for a minute, maybe if there's something you'd like to learn a little bit more about, we'd be happy to get back to you about those things. So whether it's the Eminence Program, the Excellence Conference, the BRIC events, even the awards program itself, please select 1, 2, 3, 4 of those. We'll get back to you and fill you in with all the information that you need for those items. So we appreciate you taking a minute there to answer that. And while that is still up, we can talk a little bit about today's session. And obviously, we love to hear from the audience during these, right? So there is the chat box, there's the Q&A box, whichever you choose to use. Please feel free to ask questions throughout. I'm going to keep an eye on those. We're going to try to keep it as conversational as possible. If you have relevant questions during, we will try to answer those in real time. We'll also save a little bit of time at the end to catch up with anything we might have missed or anything new. Also, if in that chat, if you want to chat to each other, please do. We don't find it distracting at all. I think it's very helpful. If there's a good conversation going, please share with each other if you like. So you can go ahead and close that poll. And let's see. Yeah. All right. Sorry, is the poll closed? Okay. If I just.
Yes, poll's closed.
Okay. Sorry. It was just still showing. All right. No worries. All right. So let's just dive right in. And so here at Brand Hall Group, LMS selection is, it's strange to say, kind of near and dear to our hearts. We've been working with companies on this for a really, really long time, and it's been pretty amazing over the last couple of decades to watch priorities and needs shift and change a little bit over this selection process. And it's always a challenge, and it's never one of these processes that you figure it out and that's the way it's going to work forever, right? Everybody's needs are changing constantly. And so if I look at the history of our LMS selection work that we've done here at Brandon Hall Group, there's a few themes that stand out, and this one is a big one, is that organizations tend to just think of things from an RFP perspective, right? They have a list of things either that they think their platform should have, or a list of things that the prospective platforms have provided to them. Say, we do these things, we have these, and here's how much it costs. And the decisions get made by that. They're made almost exclusively on a price point and does it tick these particular boxes? And while that's important, it's an important element of it, but it's not enough. And we see it time and time again where those decisions get made, and then very shortly down the road, they realize they did not make a decision that takes into account the complexity and the variables and the growth of the company. So they get stuck and locked into these contracts and find themselves sort of trying to dig their way out or find workarounds and creating more problems than they were solving in the first place. And so when we look now in the current environment, what's driving these decisions around LMS selection, it's only gotten more complicated. It's only more challenging now than it ever has been. So there's this pressure among organizations to consolidate. We've seen a lot of mer mergers and acquisitions over the years, and every time a company acquires another company, they pull in all of their platforms, and now they've got teams of people using these various different platforms, or just different business units inside the organization have been using different LMSs. And we're seeing a big push to look, we've got 8 LMSs operating under this roof. We need to get down to, we'd love to get down to one, right? How do we do that, with the complexity that brings? Obviously, AI is a huge driver, and so much more than just, hey, is your LMS powered by AI? That doesn't say much, right? It doesn't solve much. It's about what is the actual infrastructure of the tool as it relates to AI. Are we able to have, agentic AI elements in there? The idea of MCP where the AI tool can talk to the various pieces of all the technologies that are available. So it's become a part of the actual infrastructure, not just a little feature that you click on an RFP. Compliance continues to expand. Rules and regulations are constantly growing, changing. Requirements are getting more complex. Companies have to stay on top of that. Then you also see that this idea of what's going to last. In recent years, we've seen a lot of newer players in the space, and not saying that that's bad, but it's also what's going to happen in the future, right? What's the reliability of the different vendors? Are they going to be able to stick around and meet your needs in the future? And then the last thing I think that's driving a lot, we've seen more and more and more organizations realizing they have this extended enterprise need, this need to reach audiences of people that don't actually work for their company, that don't work inside the building, whether that's customers, whether that's resellers, whether that's other partners. And each one of those groups just adds, think of the complexity that's already inherent in learning and development and the technology. Now you add on these layers of people that don't work for you, that are dispersed, that have all these different priorities. It totally exacerbates the complexity. So all of these things are pushing companies to look for solutions that can wrangle this at the enterprise level. You don't see these needs necessarily at the SMB or the small business level, but for enterprise level organizations, more and more they're seeing not just a combination of these things, but like all of these things, right? So here at Brand Hall Group, when we look at our progression model for L&D and where companies are and where they want to get to, we see that when you're talking about enterprise level organizations, those very large, global, complex organizations that are either at stages 3 or 4 or want to be there, they are the ones that are making these decisions. We see it time and time again. We map back to the companies that, according to our research, fall into each of these categories. Those that are at stage 3 or 4, they are the ones that are making those decisions based on those complexities that I'm describing. They're not simply checking the box on their RFP. They're not simply going for the cheapest solution. They're trying to find out what's going to actually help the organization move forward. So with that, we sort of pulled out these key elements about LMS selection, things that we need to think about. Companies at this level that are enterprise grade need to think about. And this, means that the tool can actually meet these needs. It's not just enterprise labeled, right? It's like going back to saying, oh, we have AI. Okay, but is it really in there? Or is that just wording, right? Or are you saying, oh, we're for the enterprise? Are you truly for the enterprise, or is that just marketing language? Tools that are truly for the enterprise, they will provide all of these things. You'll be able to have that high personalization despite the size and complexity of the organization. You'll be able to have multi-tenancy, decentralization, be able to operate at different levels without having multiple different platforms. You can create these different environments as your needs, need to be met. The compliance depth. So while you're doing all this personalization in that end of the spectrum for learning, you're still able to manage the compliance and track and keep track of your certifications and make sure everything is where it belongs. So you're not doing one at the expense of the other. Um, Again, feeding into this new view of learning and talent within organizations, the tool itself, the integration architecture is going to be focused on the business, not just does this work with our other learning tools or does this work with our other HR tools? So how does this fit into the entire organization's technology ecosystem? And we mentioned the AI agent architecture. That's in there. How does that get built? And Roman and Christian are going to talk through what that looks like and how that's built. And then the last piece is the sort of the global hosting and the data sovereignty piece that is becoming more and more critical for global organizations, right? So critical if you're operating in different geographies, that you have the ability to manage and maintain all of those things. So that's just the view from the Brandon Hall Group research side. What I would like to do now is turn it over to Roman and Christian to sort of walk us through what that looks like in practicality, how they work with organizations to build and to deploy this kind of thing. So thanks.
Great. David, thank you very much for the introduction, and good morning, good afternoon to everyone. So my name is Christian Wachter, and thank you, for joining today's session. Let me start by setting the stage on IMC's point of view. At IMC, and you have already heard it, we believe that learning is not just a function. It's really, for us, for our clients, a strategic lever for business success. And that belief is grounded on experience, which you have seen on the figures with these 30 years of experience, with the huge amount of learners worldwide and organizations we are supporting really globally, and also having influences from the Americas, from Europe, from Asia, that is all combined in the end in one single solution. And one figure we're really proud of is our really high customer retention rate, and that shows that organizations don't just choose us, they really stay with us. And therefore, we're really proud of what we have designed. And when we look into the challenges, also David already sketched out, when enterprise really evaluate platforms, they face very different reality to that needs to be compared. And we, from our point of view, have identified three critical dimensions, I would call it. And you see that's complexity, architecture, and AI readiness. And we're talking about complexity, that we see that enterprises operate, that we can stay with the slide before, David. We see that enterprises compare in highly dynamic environments. So global teams, regulatory requirements, multiple use cases, different user groups, languages, all at once. And the question is, can the platform actually sustain this level of operational complexity? Then we're talking about architecture, and when I mentioned before that we stay that our customers really stay with, that we are proud that our customers really stay for long term with us. This comes why the system in the end is not longer a standalone tool. It's always integrated into broader IT ecosystems. It's not only the HR system, it's ERP platforms, it's talent management solutions, it's shop systems, it's whatever they have if you're supporting multiple scenarios. And so the question is, can the system evolve with organizations over time? Because also use cases are changing. And the last is, of course, the AI readiness. So this is shaking all the organization. It's also shaking every LMS vendor. So we are now entering really a new era, and so this is all driven by AI. And therefore, we need to be ready. And Roman will later focus also on the capabilities we are providing. So, and for us, it means is the platform truly ready to support a secure AI-driven learning ecosystem? And yeah, when we move up to the next slide, this is then what the complexity really looks like. Yeah. So I would like make it a little bit more tangible. And when we are talking about enterprise complexities, we are not talking about theory. We are talking about organizations with a huge amount of learners operating over multiple various countries, acting in highly regulated industries, also having activities in markets like China that also have their own regulations. And each of the locations and what you see can have their own compliance requirements, languages, learning needs, organizational structures. And of course, the expectation is one unified scalable learning platform. And there are some examples starting from Mercedes-Benz, from Steel, governmental organizations in Ireland, Haleon with the pharmaceutical industry, or ACCA, which is an organization that are using the platform in those different scenarios globally, but always in one, let's say, single installations. And this is where many other solutions fail. They might look well in isolated cases, but then they struggle when faced with real enterprise cases. And therefore, the challenge from our client is clear. It's not about having a learning platform. Yeah? It's about having a platform that can manage complexity, that can integrate seamlessly, and leverage AI responsibility, and this all at scale. And this is what we at IMC call prove at scale. And now Roman will go into some more details about what it means for our architecture and how the solution is designed.
So thanks, Christian. And the first question is how this all works, or how you're getting to this integration part with also a global distribution and orchestration. And at the end, and that is already seen in the title, it's always a question of architecture. And it's also the reason why you should always look for the architecture part, because the architecture drives your features, your strategy, and also later your routes, and gives you the flexibility to do this, what is needed in your company and in your requirement. On a first level of architecture is the question for headless scenario, and headless is, let's say, like it's written there, the future of actually architecture. Headless means, in short form, you don't have a front end for this. You have a lot of interfaces. You have the possibility of REST API calls to bring up and do in the system what you would like to do. It helps you in this part of, for example, embedding your learning wherever you need your learning, wherever you want to have your learning. So you don't have to bring the user into the platform. You will bring the learning to this part where the users are. So you bring the learning to the users. That's a big difference for the motivation, but also for users who need to have just small bits of learning, and they can get them there where they need them. A second reason for the headless, or the big advantage of the headless, is the integration part. When your users and your learning happens through interfaces, the integration is, of course, much easier because the interface is already there. You just have to connect to it. You have to connect your current tech stack to these interfaces which are there. You can control them, you can control the interface, but you also can connect them seamless there. You don't have to build new interfaces there. You just can connect this, which makes things much, much more easier. And third is, of course, when you have special workflows. I mean, the LMS before were always fixed workflows and fixed processes. And most of the time, they fit to your environment, or it might be that you want to have to adjust it. But when you're looking now to much more modern architectures, you would expect to have a workflow engine already integrated in your LMS. And you would start to use this as the processes are fit for you. And this means you can really combine this integration part where the learning happens where you're working, also with this UX and your experience, which you would like to have, and you would tailor the processes and the workflows within the platform as your user need them. You will have different user groups and you will have different process requirements. And even when it ends up always in seeing and using and digesting content, you have to bring them there, and this is always different. And different user groups expect also different UX and also different workflows. The fourth part is the digital product flexibility. You have, of course, faster innovations if you have interfaces there. You can prove the future there. You can have every parts using parts of the software for special groups, for special environments somewhere outside your learning technology, your LMS platform, before bringing it to the next level and bringing this innovation to your groups. And last but not least, the big theme here is always AI orchestration. If you have the possibility to automate things, and if you have a headless scenario, you're able to use AI later on. You have a smarter automation for your system. You can automate processes, add on with the workflow engine, and you can do personalization for the learning. So the system fits exactly to this, what your users are expecting for them. Just give them this part which they need, and doing individual parsing and learning experiences for you users gives only possibility when you have a headless scenario combined with an AKI orchestration. So how this looks like in a simple way of the organization. In a short and simple way, you need headless MCP and you have agentic AI behind this. Of course, you have a big value, and you can see this. When you have a headless scenario and have REST API, this MCP is your driver, which brings these interfaces and REST API calls together to an useful status for agents later on. MCP, I guess you will all know this, the protocol which brings tools and data in. So if you have already your content part, your search part in an available index, you can bring this together in MCP with your REST API calls and create easy, useful, and public useless uses of your REST API calls or your data there. And this is the driver for agents. If you're familiar with all the agents giving them a large language model and some tools behind this, you have to make public to your agents which functionality they can use in the platform. And this is, of course, a big driver. If you can tell agent A, please use this MCP tools, behind the MCP tools are your interfaces. So you're grouping your interfaces in the MCP to give access to one agent, for example, just to the skill management, create skills, or just read skills. But you can also give these agent access to the MCP tool where all your profile is stored. So you can have your next level of skills by just using the MCP server and using the required functionality into the platform, which makes it very, very powerful for your next experience in the AI world and also in the platform. So in this, you can see that the basis of the headless scenario is this what brings you to the next level of using AI? Because we all search for nice agentic cases, and only this is the possibility for this, which drives us to the question how we approach this enterprise readiness with the AI. And there we see four bigger pillars which are important. And as a European company, we have, of course, the European regulations, which are quite helpful in this, that you need to have a secure and a trusted AI. You should know where your data are. You should know what happens with the data. You should see that there are privacy regulations and that everything is compliant with all regulations which should be there. At the end, it's easy. Nothing should happen with your data, which you don't want happen with your data. And that's, of course, the first part of for everybody who looks now for a readiness of any enterprise systems, even outside LMS. Be aware and see what can happen with your data. Ask what should happen and can happen, and look how all privacy data regulations are, and if they are trusted in your AI, which is created. Do you have the hand there to tell the AI what they should do with the data? And then you are fine. Human-centric AI is a big pillar on everything. What we are currently see and do is a lot of automation in there. There happen things directly. But there should be always a possibility to have a human in the loop by design. So it's quite easy to let AI do whatever AI thinks, but you should be aware that you know later on what happened there. So wherever you look at use AI, you should have the human in the loop before sending everything to the system to tell you, here's the possibility, look there. And if something happened, you should have a trace on where you can see what the AI did and why perhaps the agent decided to do this or this or this. It's later on much easier to find things again or to use the AI in the best ways you have. Operational competitiveness is clear. It helps operation AI to respond faster, to do change, to make enablement, to scale your system there. All these easy things, repetitive, always the same, can be automated. They're much, much faster than there. And of course, you're getting also all information in the changing market, which comes, for example, in the skill management, where you're getting this information in. That's what we want to have, and that's what we need to have in the operational competence pillar. Last but not least, our main theme, enterprise-ready architecture. AI must scale. AI must embed in your enterprise, in your ecosystem. It's not only having there an assistant in your LMS, you also want that the assistant or the agent use information outside LMS, perhaps from any CRM, whatever you have there for information, for any local systems, data, websites. You can use this data and you can connect them with your LMS data. It's not only anymore an agent just for your LMS. It is your agent who is organizing your learning or your learning capacities and your platform in this. So that's what we are calling enterprise ready. The architecture must integrate into your systems which are available and brings the possibility to bring the data together. So which value we see there in the learning process which we can reach with AI? First, of course, we have the classical AI-powered creation. So you can create anything, your course, your tests, learning questions. You can do translations there. You can create images which you can use there and make them public. So everything what is called AI-powered creation can be done in your LMS. You just have to tell the agent, please create this, describe this, and use this in the platform, and you will have a powerful automation there for the future. Second pillar, is DI tutoring and trainer. Of course, you can have learning assistants. As I said before, the learning is getting a little bit more individual, so you can have recommendations there, you can have summaries, you might get the content as you want to have the content. So you will have in the future the choice if you want to have more a summary or PDF, or if you want to have a video for this, or if somebody should create some images for this, or if you want to have a complete course with tests, or you want to have a test preparation for this. This can be, as we have pillar one, generated, created for you, and you will have trainers who help you to do this for your personal thing. Which brings us to the third pillar, which is the adaptive learning. Of course, we have the possibility that your passes and your learning paths are getting individual. So you don't need to do all the stuff every time the same and everybody does the same stuff. No, you have your learning paths in the future, and you will use our AI for this to get a configurable finding way for your learning type to use this how you expected the content type, but also skip things which you already know or which you did already last week in another course, so you don't have to repeat this again. In the fourth part, we have the skill intelligence, which is a really, really big theme. When you're looking to skill intelligence or skills, you will always have the problem. You have to create roles, you have to create skills, you have to describe them for your organization. And there we have the possibility now to do dynamic updates for these skills. So we can look at the market there, look what new skills are needed for this role, and can automatically push them in. Remember, human in the loop, who is just suggestion, do you want to have this update this role because the market asks for this? See which AI transformations we will have in front of us. So this requirement is getting really, really hard for everybody on the market, because we will have changes. So the role will change and the skills for this also. This will go all dynamic. You can now have fit to the market analysis for your skills and your skill role model, which you have there. Last but not least, the learning analytics pillar, which of course, everything what you put into the platform can be now nicely analyzed and recommended with readiness checks for your company, with an overview of learning activities which you have in the platform, which perhaps are needed, which are completely in a new progress for the organization, how you improve your organization on the next level, but also shows your compliance risk. When you have compliance issues there, they can be easily shown in the future. These all pillars are solvable with agents. And that's mainly the part why we have and see a strategy for this agent part in AI, which will bring the next level to your LMS. And when you're looking at the strategy, you will see in the first, we are sure that you should be able to create agents yourself. As I said already before, AI is driving us, and you will need to have yourself the possibility to create agents within the platform, but also to configure the agents as you want to have them, how they should talk to you, what they should offer, which part of the platform should be administrated perhaps by an agent, but also which part of the platform you want to give to the users to create things and to ultimately build things up, where on which workflow you want to step in and say, we have human in the loop before this is going out, I want to see this. This is something what will be personally to you and not to us. We will give you the templates, which brings us on the second pillar, that we have agents there prepared for you, running directly in the platform, and you can reuse the configuration of us and say, I'm adjusting it just to this part, to this one, and this agent shouldn't create skills, but it should look and update the skill levels for my users, or should recommend new role sets, or should search for available people there in the system but shouldn't do this and this and this. That must be flexible for you to add, but flexible also to change, but based on a standardized agent template. If you are not familiar with creating agent, or you have issues with defining DRD setups, we of course give you in a third pillar our professional services, which enables you to use all these supporting and consultancy tables. There. David, could you click? Thanks. For you that you're able to use these consultancy service, but also to be able to change the agents. But we offer also for you integrating these system with other systems. So if you're starting their projects, we are happy to make with you new agent designs, which are fitting really exactly to your needs and gives you this possibility to use, and not only any functionality which somebody programmed into the agent, because as I said already before, with an advantage of the headless scenario, you have the possibility to be open on all interfaces which you have there and which you can provide in the MCP server. Last but not least, is our open eccentric architecture. As we said already before, the basis of all this is an architecture which is first of all open. So have a REST API call, you have an MCP server-based architecture which is public available for us. I mean, there are companies on this world, they're making not public available. You need to have this, that you are able to use this MCP together with your agent and integrate other data. And this brings you to the possibility that you can extend your learning experience as also your learning possibility, as also your learning results. Because having data from learning management system and external data together makes your agent quite powerful and brings this to these people and brings the system to the people as they want to have it. Last point, designed for scale. We always have to think how we are looking, and coming back to our first things, complexity means also that your system can scale up for all the scenarios which are there. It might be a lot of users, it might be a lot of content, it might be also globally distributed. And also your AI agent strategy and your architecture beneath this must be able to scale up for any systems and system environments which are needed. So I'm giving back to David.
Yeah, no, fantastic. Thank you. And there's a few things that we can go over. So, but just to sort of, give you some questions to think about as you go back, and if you're heading into this selection process, which can be a very, lengthy, time-consuming process. But if you start early and start asking the right questions, you find yourself in a much better position. So the idea around, you have to have a good assessment of your organization's own complexity. Sometimes you can't see it because we're living it every day, but to really understand what are the layers of complexity, and also not just what they are today, right? What will those layers of complexity look like in the near future is very critical as well. So will the platform be able to stay moving forward? Depending on what may come down the road. Similarly with the architecture itself, if you look back over time, and many of you probably have worked at organizations, or even your current organization, where you've had a solution in place, whether it's for learning or anything else, but as the organization's needs have changed, that platform maybe didn't meet those new needs or didn't operate in the proper manner. So there were workarounds built and sort of homegrown integrations, and then those sort of build on one another. And then as more changes come down, and now you've got sort of this house of cards, where you can't remove one small thing or the entire thing collapses, right? So the idea is, are we putting things in place that are much more modular, much more dynamic, and are able to evolve and integrate regardless of what may happen in the near future? Because none of us can really say what the next year, 2 years, especially 5 years looks like. And then, of course, from an AI perspective, it's got to be more than a banner that says AI powered. It's got to be more. The conversation, we've gotten to a point now where those of you on the call who would be considered buyers, those that are out there looking for solutions, you have to ask deeper, harder, more complex questions about AI. And I think both Christian and Roman did a good job of talking about some of the unique ways in which can be leveraged, in addition to sort of the stuff we're used to, the content creation, the personalization, that stuff, but the other deeper stuff. So really understanding, can the platform really work inside whatever my organization's AI future might look like? And so let's open it up for any questions that come. And it makes me, that last point about the the sort of AI environment, I think is so critical. And you don't see a lot of providers talking about this yet. And I'm really glad that you guys are, because so often these tools are presented as, oh, this, we built it so it looks a certain way and behaves a certain way. We want you to have a very user-friendly environment, and and it's all about what that experience looks like. But the reality is, for a lot of organizations, that is not going to be the learning experience in the future. It's going to be some other environment where almost everything else is happening. So if you could even imagine just a Claude AI window or a Chat GPT window that's just open, and anything that the employee wants to do, whether from directly, completing a task, to getting some enforcement on learning, to checking in on their development path, will happen in that environment. And so, do you have the tools that enable that to happen? That's why that MCP is so important, that protocol. I put a quick little definition in the chat if you didn't see it, and Annika was very helpful. Put in a link to a blog that dives a little deeper into what that is. But it's going to become critical. It's going to be the way all of these tools work together, so that when you have a platform like the Sheer IMC learning platform, you don't have to write a different batch of code for ChatGPT, a different batch of code for Claude, a different batch of code for whatever. This protocol allows an AI environment like that to call upon whatever it needs from the learning platform. And so, to recognize that what the platform is good at, as far as, pulling together content, delivering it, monitoring, tracking it, serving up the right things, but doing it in an environment that might be completely unseen by the user, I think is really important. And so I applaud you, the CIMC team, for going down that road. But what are you seeing? I mean, from your clients, are you starting to see that happening yet? Because I think you guys are slightly ahead of the curve here. But is that happening? Are organizations starting to have sort of that AI front end over
Yeah.
the different tools?
Yeah. It's already starting, and of course, the headless scenario is key for this, because, as you mentioned, we see multiple front ends, and so you have a chatbot, an assistant, individual designed portals with AI features or not, and in the end, for the clients, for our customers, it's really important that they can define the governance in the background. Yeah, that they know what happens, but the front end is not longer, let's say, relevant for the end users. As you mentioned, you really control what happens in the background. You manage what also a chat, an assistant is displaying to learner. But the front end could be, yeah, like we see it here, Q&A bot, whatever. It could be an automated email reminding you to something, and you immediately can execute certain things. So, of course, LMS systems will always come with a certain front end. So, of course, it's a must, yeah, that you have to have a front end for, let's say, structured learning activities. But the access points are already very, very different, and
Right.
also that's the experience. Do you really Google, or do you use like things like ChatGPT or others to ask a question and get then the information? And of course, then an MCP service helpful, that the MCP is understanding the question you type in your OpenAI, your Perplexity, your ChatGPT window, and then you're providing with the relevant information that really fits to your company to the scenario you're currently working in, and therefore it's important that the LMS in the background is still providing the guidelines and also managing the process in the background. Of course, fully AI powered, and this is what already happened because we see that the traditional front ends for learners disappear more and more.
Yeah. No, and I think it's a huge leap in how this stuff is being applied from an AI perspective. For an analogy, I imagine the idea was, oh, we've made the learning platform very user friendly, and you can ask, and find things out. But I imagine if you as a person had a very specific question, and then you were in a room with a dozen people that were experts in different areas, but you didn't know which area they were an expert in, and who would you ask your question to, right? You'd have to find the person to ask the question to get the right answer. What we're saying is just ask the question, and the interface will find the expert, find the right platform, make the right call, and bring you the information you need. And so you've eliminated this huge piece of friction. We used to talk about, oh, it's easier to search. Well, people need to know what they're searching for, right? They don't know what they don't know. We've actually, you know, reduced another layer of that friction, where you can just simply ask the question, and the results become self-evident after that. I think that's a huge one. And another one that almost seems, I think, in the big conversation, like, oh, this isn't as mind-blowing, or it isn't a headline, but to me it's critical, especially when you talk about the kind of organizations you work with: global, complex, very dispersed, lots of regulation. So I get into the compliance issue, and one of the biggest challenges with compliance is it's always been sort of an all or nothing. Here it all is, everybody do it. We have to do this to make sure that all the boxes are checked and everything's right. But to add this layer that says, I can figure out who already has what, right? We don't need to constantly resend people redundant compliance training just to make sure we're safe. We've actually got it. So that all of a sudden, compliance training becomes far more nimble, far less taxing. And then again, if you're talking about a large, global, complex organization, that little bit of reduced friction, is exponential, right? The idea that, oh, I didn't spend all of this time going through stuff that I already know, something I already have a certification in. I think that's going to be a critical piece of how companies leverage AI, and I hope it doesn't get lost in the, unfortunately, I think compliance always gets looked at last, even though it's probably that has the biggest impact on most of these organizations, and almost every organization has to deal with it. Either you, Christian, Roman, any other thoughts on the role of AI and in the compliance and certification world?
Yeah, so of course, everything what's automation will be. So compliance means also you have a lot of similar content, but just always a little bit different. And this might help also in AI. So to um, generate content for regulations, but always a little bit different, just to have them these 20 pieces, because you need to have them in Germany like this, in US like this, in Spain somewhere else, in Asia you need almost the same. I mean, we all have to do IT security, I guess. Everybody from us does every year's IT security compliance, and they will be just a little bit different. So this will, of course, help a lot to generate this content, perhaps directly on the flow, yeah, to add just the custom specific or country specific, region specific part, but the rest will be the same. And this is, of course, also a big part where I will help in the compliance section there. And of course, the possibility then to tailor any learning process.
No, I appreciate that. Thank you. We have a little bit of time left. If there's any other questions from the group, anybody wants to share their own experiences, please do. I would hope you would want to share with each other. And of course, if you want to learn more about Sheer IMC, the website is in the deck that you'll all be getting in the PDF, but it is Sheer, SCHEER dash IMC.com, and you can learn much more about who they are and what they do. But I think we've gotten a really good look under the hood from an architecture standpoint, which again, not a lot of providers will lead with architecture. They want to show you the shiny surface stuff first. But I think you guys have recognized how critical it is about, how it's built and what's the, the extensibility of it. So I appreciate you sharing that. Um, and let's see, any other thoughts that either of you'd like to share as we wait and see if any other questions come in? Let's see. Oh, and Annika shared if you want to learn a little bit more about uh, agentic AI workflows, there's a link there for a session that they're doing. So if you can check that out too if you want, that's in the chat if you'd like to share that. And don't forget, you'll all be receiving a PDF with all this information in it within about 24 hours. You'll also receive an email with a link to do a trial of the Brandon Hall Group Eminence Program, or a 7-day trial, which I think is, again, it's a unique opportunity that we've never done before. So take advantage of that if you would like. And ultimately, I would just really like to thank both of you for sharing your time and your expertise. And if anybody on the line wants to dig deeper, these are obviously the gentlemen to do so with. I would connect with them. They understand this stuff in and out, and I think it's really important. Like I said before, I can't overstate getting familiar. You don't have to become the technological experts on MCP and AI necessarily, but you have to start to dig a little deeper and ask more serious questions. And so getting a little bit more familiar with how these tools work together. I mean, look, a lot of us have been around long enough. We've had to do it over the years. We had to figure out what it means when SaaS came around. We had to figure out how that was different than what we were doing. We had to, so this is just the next thing, right? Understanding a little bit more about the technology and the underpinnings of what's happening. So you're asking the right questions, and you're not just, buying into who has the best T-shirt when it comes to AI. So important stuff to have. And like I said, we here at Brand Hall Group, we've got decades of technology selection experience. So if you'd like any more thoughts on that too, you can reach out to me or Brand Hall Group in general, and we'd love to help you out with that as well. So again, thank you both, Christian and Roman, and of course, thank you to Share
Thank
IMC for
you.
the time.
Thank you.
And we hope to see you all again on another webinar. But thank you.
Let's
Thank
do
you.
so. Thank you very much. Have a great day, and thanks for attending. See you. Bye bye.